All right, let me tell you something. You hear stories your whole life, little bits of weirdness passed around like loose change. Most of them slide right off you, like water on a duck's back. But some just stick. They get under your skin, and sometimes, just sometimes, you find out there's a horrifying kernel of truth to them. For me, that story is about the alligators, in the sewers. I grew up in the city, not the kind of place with wide-open spaces and fresh air. We had concrete, brick, and a tangled web of streets and alleys, and under it all, a whole other world, the sewers, the city's hidden arteries, carrying away everything we didn't want to see or think about. Dark, damp, forgotten. The urban legend of the sewer alligators was something everyone knew. You heard it in the schoolyard, whispered with a mix of fear and glee. Rich folks bought baby alligators as pets, so the story went, little cute things that fit in your hand. But then they grew and grew, and when they got too big, too sharp-toothed, too much to handle, the owners didn't take them to a sanctuary. Oh no, they flushed them. Down the toilet. And somehow, miraculously, these little gators survived the journey through the pipes, found their way into the vast underground network, and started thriving, growing into monstrous, pale, sewer-dwelling beasts. I never really believed it. It sounded ridiculous. A fairy tale for city kids. How could a tropical reptile survive in those cold, dark tunnels? Where would they get enough food? It was just a story, a way to add a little color to the mundane reality of city life. I dismissed it like I dismissed most urban legends. Fun to think about for a second, but utterly impossible. Then things got weird. It started small. A strange smell sometimes, wafting up from the storm drains on certain blocks. Not the usual sewage smell, which is bad enough, but something reptilian. A musky, damp odor that I couldn't quite place at first. I figured it was just some new kind of industrial runoff, or maybe a dead rat decomposing somewhere. The city is full of weird smells. Then came the sounds. Low, rumblings that seemed to vibrate up through the sidewalk late at night. I lived in a ground-floor apartment for a while, and sometimes, lying in bed in the quiet hours, I'd hear them, like a distant growl. I told myself it was the old pipes, the building settling, the subway rumbling far beneath. Anything but what the back of my mind was starting to wonder. I started paying more attention to the storm drains, those heavy metal grates that dotted the streets, offering a glimpse into the darkness below. I'd catch myself looking down, especially after a rain, when the water levels were higher. All I ever saw was trash, murky water, sometimes a rat or two running away from the light, but the image of something else lurking down there, something big and scaly, started to form in my mind. It was around this time that I met old Mr. Henderson. He worked for the city's sanitation department for decades before retiring. Saw things, he did, knew the city's underbelly better than anyone. I got to talking to him one day, just idle chat on a park bench. The conversation turned into weird things people find in the city. I brought up the sewer alligator legend, expecting him to laugh and dismiss it. He didn't laugh. His face went still, and his eyes, already a little watery with age, seemed to look right through me. "Alligators, huh?" he said, his voice low. "Yeah, you know, the story," I said, feeling suddenly a little foolish. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he leaned closer. "Kid, let me tell you something. Most of them stories ain't true, or they're twisted around. But the sewers hold secrets." He told me things. Not full-blown alligator sightings, nothing that clear-cut, but he talked about sections of the old system that were miles deep, forgotten tunnels that weren't even on the maps anymore. He talked about things they found sometimes, things that shouldn't have been down there. Unusual tracks in the mud, strange shedding skins, tools that went missing in the blink of an eye. He never explicitly said alligator, but the implication was there between us. He had seen enough, suspected enough, to make the urban legend feel a lot less like fiction. After that conversation, my curiosity turned into something of an obsession. I couldn't stop thinking about what might be living beneath my feet. Every manhole cover seemed to hide a potential threat. Every gurgle from a drain sent a jolt of anxiety through me. I started taking detours on my walks, finding myself drawn to areas with large storm drains, particularly those in older parts of the city, where the infrastructure was ancient and presumably more likely to contain forgotten passages. I carried a powerful flashlight, shining it down into the darkness, the light disappearing after only a few feet. One hot summer night I was walking home late from a friend's place. It was after midnight, the streets mostly empty. I took a shortcut down a back street, the kind that had old warehouses and crumbling brick walls. There was a large storm drain grate on the corner, partially covered by overgrown weeds. As I approached, I heard that low, rumbling sound again, louder this time and closer than I'd ever heard it. It wasn't just a vibration, it had a distinct growl to it. My heart started to pound. I stopped a few feet from the grate, my flashlight already in my hand. The musky, reptilian smell was strong here, almost overpowering. I aimed the light down through the grate. The light cut through the darkness, lighting the slimy walls of the tunnel below. For a moment I saw nothing but the usual debris and flowing water. Then something moved. Not a rat. This was bigger, much bigger. A section of the shadows near the edge of the tunnel shifted. The growling sound intensified, a low growl that seemed to come from deep within a massive chest. My hand trembled, the flashlight shaking. Then 2 eyes caught the light. They were low to the ground, reflecting the light with an unnerving cold glow. Not the beady eyes of a rat. These were larger, set wide apart, with that unmistakable reptilian gleam. I froze, fear seizing me. My mind screamed alligator. The shape in the shadows moved again, slowly, deliberately. I saw a glimpse of dark, scaly hide, rough and uneven, disappearing back into the blackness. The rumbling subsided, replaced by the sound of water splashing as the unseen creature shifted its weight. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, paralyzed by terror, the flashlight unwavering. I didn't see the full creature, not clearly, but I saw enough. The eyes, the scale, the sheer size of the movement in the confined space. Then, with a final, soft splash, whatever it was seemed to retreat further into the tunnel, the sounds fading into the distance. I don't know how long I stood there after that, shaking, trying to catch my breath. The musky smell still hung in the air, a scary reminder of what I had just saw. I finally backed away from the grate, my legs feeling like jelly, and stumbled the rest of the way home, my eyes darting to every shadow, every drain. I tried to tell people. My friends, a few co-workers. They listened, their eyes saying they thought I was either crazy, drunk, or just telling a tall tale. They brought up the urban legend, laughed about flushed pets. None of them believed me. How could they? I didn't have a photo, didn't have definitive proof. Just my own terrifying experience. Now, the city feels different to me. The familiar streets, the sounds, the smells, they all have an underlying layer of unease. When I walk past a storm drain, I hear that low growling in my memory. I smell that musky odor, and I see those cold, reflective eyes in the darkness below. The urban legend of the alligators in the sewers? To most people, it's just a story, a piece of city folklore, but to me, it's a horrifying reality. I saw something down there, something large and ancient and living in the dark, forgotten heart of the city, And I know, with a certainty that chills me to the bone, that the stories are true. They're down there, waiting in the dark.